Hello and welcome. We apologize for being late. We are having new admin teams joining us and new advisors joining us. So we had to do some stuff on the back end. So apologies for the timing. We will try our best to start digging into questions really quickly. So welcome to episode 156 of Premed Office Hours. My name is Courtney Lewis. I'm a prior director of admissions at a Southwestern medical school. And currently, I am joined by Verinia Granum, who I'm going to let introduce herself.
Sure, thank you. I'm Verinia Granum, a former Assistant Dean of Pre-Health Advising at Hofstra University in New York. I am with MAP now since 2021. I can't believe it. It's been 2 years as an admissions advisor, and I look forward to this week. I feel like I haven't been on for a little bit, but I look forward to answering questions from our pre-meds, and joining us shortly, hopefully, will be Christine Crispin, who is also an admissions advisor with us. So she might be jumping on shortly.
Yeah. So we'll have people in and out over these next couple of weeks. You'll probably see kind of a myriad of people on and off screen just because we have a growing team, which is very exciting. We have some wonderful people joining us and bringing their wealth of knowledge to our already excellent pool. And so you guys will benefit for that. So
absolutely. And
glad you're here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And it's a great way for you all to get to know us and all the advisors on the team. So
yeah.
All right.
Cycle in and out. Okay, so I see some questions coming in. As always, please feel free to submit your own questions if you have them. Obviously, a little bit of context is sometimes needed for us to be able to properly answer them. So try to provide at least a little bit of detail if you think that we're going to need it to answer it directly. But we'll do our best, and we've got, should be able to plug away or chip away quite a bit of these. So if we are ready, I'll have our team pull up the first question that we're going to start answering. Okay, so Fluffy Cookie, who I feel like is a frequent flyer here.
Yes.
I'm becoming familiar with the name. Okay. So if the medical school I'm applying to does not ask for a letter of rec from a physician, but I have a really good one, can I send it anyways, or should I only send what is asked for? Thanks.
Yeah.
Great question. This is an interesting question because I know some schools are very particular. They say these and only these will we accept, and you definitely want to stick to that, whereas other schools are saying these are the ones that are required, but you can send up to this number if you have other ones that you want to send. So I think you need to be very clear on the wording for each of the schools because that will matter. Verenia, same takeaway?
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to answer this, and then we're going to go ahead and let Christine come in, who just joined us. But this is such a source of confusion for students, and I understand that. I just had a conversation about this with a student yesterday as well. You really do have to look at each school's specific recommendations or requirements around this. So only send what they're asking for, and make sure that the letters that you're sending are going to be hopefully strong letters. So think about this as, if you're still waiting on someone, if you're considering asking for more, make sure that these are letters that are going to really talk to who you are as a candidate. Strong letters of recommendation. The quality of those letters is way more important than just having extra letters and, the quantity of the letters and who they're coming from. That's not as important. So check to see what they're asking for. Make sure you follow those directions. Courtney, do you think it's okay? Sometimes there's a lot of confusion about this for a student to call an admissions office and just say, hey, just want to make sure I clarify this or understand this.
Yeah, I think for clarity, I'm always happy to answer those questions. Now, if it looks like somebody just didn't do their own legwork and they want to be kind of spoon-fed everything when it was readily available, not a huge fan of that type of behavior, but if you have tried to dig in and see, if I just attach one extra letter, is that going to be problematic? We were always happy to answer those types of questions. Okay. So if you need to, go ahead. If it says we want 3 letters and it's this, and this, then no, you're not going to be sending that physician letter of recommendation, even if it's good. they don't want it. They've said they want those 3 and only those 3. But if they give you some latitude, by all means, send it in if you feel like it's going to be a strong recommendation for yourself and they're open to receiving it. So
great.
Pay close attention to the words that are used in that disclosure.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. I'm going to add Christine.
Yeah.
Sorry, Christine. We had you waiting there.
No, it's okay.
Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
We just did intros. No worries. Yeah. We just did intros. If you want to go ahead and tell students a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. All right. So I am Christine Crispin, and as you can read, I'm the former director of admissions at UC Irvine, and I was an admissions committee member at USC Keck School of Medicine. I'm currently one of the admissions advisor here at MSHQ, and I've been in the pre-health admissions world for about 13 years. So thank you for having me.
And we're very lucky to have you. Yay.
Yes. I'm sure people have heard of the schools that you hail from, and they're very excited. We have a lot of UC students in our midst that are always on here having, questions that I'm sure you're going to be able to be a resource for. So
thank you.
You want to pull up the next question for our collective here? Okay, Billy Raymond Roth. Hi guys. Hello, ladies. Is it an issue if there are a really low amount of shadowing hours, approximately 8, but numerous hours of scribing, 1,400, that is quite a bit. It just feels a little silly to include 8 hours of an experience. Who wants to take this one?
I'll jump in.
Go for it.
I will say no experience is unworthy and silly, because I still hope that from that 8 hours you learned something. So I would definitely include it if you feel that it was a good experience for you. I'll also throw in that shadowing, at least in my part of the world, is nearly impossible to come by. So the fact that you have 8 hours of shadowing, I think, is fantastic in this post-COVID world where I'm working with students who cannot find anyone to shadow. So it's not a lot, but I still think it can be a worthy experience, especially if you feel that you have something to write about that you learned from.
Yeah. Don't underestimate it.
A lot of the times why medical schools are hoping that you have shadowing is usually that's how you can get some breadth and depth of knowledge of the different day-to-days that physicians have. If they're an ER physician as opposed to a primary care private practice, that's a different patient interaction or day-to-day or flow. And so sometimes it helps to give you a little bit of scope of what being a physician can look like in these different settings or under a different specialty. So get what you can. Obviously, they're going to look at things in totality. Something is better than nothing, as Dr. Crispin said. So, okay, hopefully that's helpful. Okay, Divine Arwin, is that? We'll go with that.
We'll go with that.
What exactly is the purpose of a postback, and can you do it while in undergrad or something like a postback in undergrad?
Okay.
This is kind of a complex, kind of confusing question.
I think they just meant to probably ask what exactly is the purpose of a postback. I think they just had the purpose in there, but I can take this one.
Go ahead.
So a postback is a program that you complete after graduation, so post-baccalaureate. And it's typically a non-degree program, and it's typically designed for students who want to go back and retake some prerequisites if they didn't do so well the first time around, or they're complete career changers and they've come to this decision a little later in life that they want to pursue medical school. So they can enroll in a postback program, take all the necessary science prerequisites to prepare for medical school. So you would do it after completing your undergrad degree. And like I said, it really depends on your needs. If you're a student who struggled in the sciences and now you're just a different, more disciplined person who's like ready to try this again, look into potentially doing a postback program, or if you're a complete career changer and you've come to this decision, like I said before, later you want to pursue medical school, that's what a postback program is great for. There's different options out there. Just Google postback programs. The AAMC has a whole section on their website just about postback programs. You can do the research and see if that's appropriate for you. Some students choose formal ones, or you can kind of do it on your own, do it yourself, where you're taking classes, undergraduate level pre-med classes for the prereqs on your own without a formal structure. So there's just tons of options out there. But that is the whole purpose of a postback program.
Mm-hmm. All right, Fernie Fernandez. Good afternoon. Quick question. I was going to apply this year, but ended up not getting a competitive MCAT score. That does happen sometimes. But I asked for a letter of recommendation. Can I use those for next year's cycle? So this is, you could use, I would say, and jump in here, both of you, if you disagree. From my experience, you're going to want the date of the letter of recommendation to be for the cycle that you're in. So you could use the same referee or person to do the recommendation letter, but you don't want to use an old dated letter for a new cycle. So if nothing else, have them refresh the date, even if they want to keep the contents the same, if they're advocating for you in the exact same way, that's fine. Refresh the date so that it's appropriate to use, so that we know that they still stand by the contents of the letter. They've, to date, and for that cycle, they still agree with what they were saying before, and then have it resubmitted. So that would be my suggestion.
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. And I've had this conversation with many students this year when I've told them they're not quite ready. And this works the same as when you are getting to know a professor or a research mentor, and there's a gap of time between the time you were with them and to the time that you apply. Just ask them to write the letter, and then you'll remind them when the date is coming, just to add the date of the year that you're applying. So it's actually not, I don't think it's totally uncommon, because this happens all the time to students.
Yeah,
it does.
And stay in touch with them, right? You're not applying the cycle.
Absolutely.
Let them know what happened. And then periodically just check in. Hey, how were you?
Yes.
This is what I've been up to. And kind of nurture that relationship so that when the time comes, they remember you. And maybe they'll have something new they want to add to the letter. You never know.
Yep. Yep. That's how it's done. So reach out, let them know you're going to table it for this cycle to strengthen your application. It's not uncommon to have to do. So keep in touch. You're welcome. We got to thank you. So you're very welcome. Okay, next question. John, and in a secondary, asking about why I'm applying to a school or ties to the school, should I mention my dad attending that medical school as a factor? What about my uncle at a different school? I don't know how your uncle attending a different medical school would have anything to do with you attending a different specific school. So I'm not sure about that one, but how do you guys feel about the dad attending the same medical school as a factor?
I mean, it constitutes a tie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you are applying to a medical school to which your dad is an alum, I think first and foremost, you should talk about the reasons why you are attracted to, or the other ties that you have to that school, to kind of not make it seem like, hey, you're saying, hey, I'm in a legacy or something like that, and hope it gives you an edge that someone else may not have. However, I think it's perfectly fine to talk about the reasons why you would want to attend that school, the other ties. Maybe you still live in the state to which that school is in. And so by all means, say you live here, this is your community, blah, blah, blah. By the way, my dad went to school here too, so it's been a part of my world forever. Kind of just loop it in at the end, but I wouldn't throw it out there as the primary reason you want to go to that school.
Yeah, I get this question often too from students, not necessarily, my parent went here or whatever, but they have family nearby. So I say that's a great support system. However, focus on what the school is offering that you're interested in first. And then at the end, you can say, as a bonus, I have family nearby. It'll be great to have the support system close to me. That way, like you said, Christine, it doesn't look like You're just saying, I want to go here because my family is here or something like that. You really want to be specific about about why you're applying to that school.
But I do think when you say my support system is here, I think it's okay to also say, I know that I can be the best medical student possible when I know that my support system is here to help with a safety net. So don't discount that at all, because that's a great point. But we don't want to make it seem like you're using some sort of a legacy to try to work your way through the admissions. And I don't think admissions people, as a former one, cares for that too terribly much.
Yeah. If you think about how many applications a med school will receive and how many people will talk very passionately about why they want to attend there, all of the resources that they're going to take advantage of, how the curriculum's laid out, what clubs they want to be involved in, and then you come in with saying, yeah, my dad went there, I think I'm going to get an excellent education. It's not a wrong answer. It just may not be as strong as, you know, who are the faculty on the AdCom going to want to teach? Somebody who's, you know, just really passionate and really saying how, you know, being married to that school, everybody's going to be successful and they just want to come and thrive, right? So, okay to mention, make sure there's other factors, I think is what we're putting forward. So,
yeah.
All right, next question. Okay, Legit Taco, saving space on activities, only have room for one hobby section. Is it fine to combine cello and surfing? Unrelated, but I would separate them by a paragraph spacer. This is a question I think we get fairly frequently with people trying to fit as much information as possible in a limited amount of space. So you guys want to talk to this one?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've seen this before. I think it's okay to separate the two, right? They're two hobbies that you enjoy, and separating them into two separate little paragraphs, that's fine too. There's no rules to activities according to Dr. Gray. So do what makes sense. The main thing is when you're talking about these experiences and hobbies too, just talk about the meaning behind it for you. Why do you enjoy it? Why did you pick this up? Don't try to force it to medicine. Don't try to force a connection to medicine. It doesn't need to be there. I think this is fine to do, just to show them a little bit about who you are outside of medicine too.
Yeah, I agree. I'm okay with the mention of two things. Now, if you're getting into 4 or 5 things, I'm not sure I'm going to get
too much
enough. It's not a catch-all, right? You don't want each of your activities to just kind of be cluttered. Hobbies, you know, give me some context. Let me know, like Vernia said, kind of why you enjoy it, what it does for you, how you got involved. 2 seems like a reasonable, but in that context, don't just keep adding more and more and more to cover all of your bases, because then it gets a bit messy for what the purpose of having the limitation is. Like, they give you 15 kind of for a reason, and some important factors of your life won't be covered in the activity section. You know, they just won't. It's not going to be a full and comprehensive picture. So pick the things that will give insight, add value, have meaning, share those to give them, you know, what you can within that realm. And then just know secondaries are another good place to kind of expand and grow and share more about yourself, or interviews. So you'll have other opportunities to kind of share some of these things as well, but seems okay. All right, next question. Anastasia. Okay. Was in a volunteer program and was supposed to do this for a year, but had to stop 4 months in, 300 hours completed due to family circumstances. I was told not to include this in my app. What do you think? I mean, 300 hours seems substantial, but.
Yeah, I wish I knew why you were told not to include that, maybe because you had to stop, but I agree, 300 hours is still 300 hours, and it sounds like you have a legitimate, you just didn't up and quit because you didn't want to do it anymore. You had a life happens. So that's easily explained. I think it should be included.
Yeah. It's we don't ask even if you were fired, if you quit and didn't have something else going on, if you just didn't get along with your supervisor or anything like that. Like that is not included in the activities section. You just speak to what you did gain from the time that you had there and leave it at that. We understand that, especially young people, as you're seeking opportunities and new ones present themselves, that there may be a little bit of jumping around to different activities, different jobs, different roles. So yeah, that's a bit curious.
Many times in college, you do stuff during the summer, short term, because you go to school in a different area. It's, you do 2 or 3 months in one location, and then you go back, and then maybe you find something in the spring semester that you only have time to do for a couple of months because you have to go back home. So
exactly.
Yeah.
I think this is fine. I would include this.
Yeah, and what you don't want to do is fudge on the numbers, right? Maybe you're a reapplicant. You put in your last application that you had anticipated hours for a much longer period of time, and in your new application, it's going to show that you only completed 300 of those anticipated hours. That is still okay. You had anticipated doing this for longer. Circumstances happen. Just give us the true and accurate numbers on an updated application if that's kind of what's going on here too. Okay. So. Okay, wit. Is a poor Casper score by itself a reason to change my school list? First quartile, still sorting through where I went wrong with that exam. A lot of Casper questions are coming in since people are taking it. It's kind of the season of Casper right now. So either of you have any feelings on whether this should impact a school list or not?
My schools still don't use the Casper or the preview, but when I've worked with students who have taken the exam and done, your words, not mine, poorly, they have still been successful. So I personally do not think this is a reason to change your school list. I still think if you get to an interview, if you get to the point of an interview and you demonstrate many of the qualities that they are looking for in a Casper, I think that's easily overcome. But this is not my area of expertise, so I will defer to Courtney or Verinia to follow up on that.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Christine. I don't think I would. Yeah, I wouldn't change the school list based on just that. I mean, like you were saying, if there are schools that are your dream schools, they're a great fit for you in whatever way. This is just one data point, as we always emphasize.
Yeah. So Casper and preview, they're situational judgment tests. So kind of working through ethical or professional dilemmas and seeing how you do that. So, maybe this would be when I receive your application, maybe I'm going to look a little closer at how you do your personal statement or answer some of the secondary application questions and things like that to see if I'm seeing a reoccurrence of maybe problematic tones, verbiage, themes. But if not, then this is kind of an outlier score where I'm not getting a lot of repeating evidence of it. And so how much weight they're going to give this is going to vary potentially drastically. But as one data point, I don't think I would upend a med school list for this, especially since this is kind of outside of your control at this point on how they're going to look at it and how much weight they're going to give it. So I would keep my med school list the same, have them review all of the information in full, and then determine what they're going to do with it. So there should be other opportunities to kind of shine in those areas, and Casper and preview have different weights, I would say, given, or value adds are going to be looked at differently per school. So
Having said that, this is a great segue to a workshop that we're doing this week on situational judgment tests.
Tomorrow.
Oh yeah, it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if you're still kind of, if you haven't taken it yet and you're curious about it, you want to get some kind of tips and suggestions on maybe how to approach some of these scenarios, come check it out. You can register for it on premedworkshop.com. It's tomorrow, Thursday. I'm not sure on the time.
I'm glad you remembered that. Yeah.
It's in the afternoon on the East Coast, but register for it on premedworkshop.com. You can get all the details there. It's a situational judgment test workshop. You can register, and if you can't make it to the live session, you can get a link to the recording so you can rewatch that. Check it out.
Yeah. So in the workshop, what we're going to be doing is actually asking audience members questions. You're going to come on and have kind of a mock interview format style where we'll put your hand to the fire, so to speak, on kind of answering these questions impromptu and seeing how you do, right?
You're going to scare them away. You're going to scare them away.
You have to be brave to do it, but it gives you a lot of context of kind of what we're looking for and why. We can give you feedback on your response and why we may lean one way versus the other as a med school, and kind of give you some insight into the thinking of the evaluator so that you feel a little bit more prepared on how to go about these questions, because they do repeat, right? In secondaries, they kind of come up. In interview questions, they'll come up. So there's going to be a lot of repetition on situational judgment. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
And it's tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern.
3 p.m. Eastern. Join us. Okay. All right, Malay. Is a July MCAT date too late for this application cycle? I've already applied. It kind of depends on the school. There's a number of factors you can kind of look at to inform. Christine, from your background with kind of the UC school system, what's a July date look like for you?
I mean, a July date means a August score return. I will be very honest with you, that does make my anxiety level raise a little bit. Interviews are going out probably by the end of the month. You know, the applications transmit. So if this is your first MCAT score, so it's not a retake, and basically what they'll do is they'll put you on hold until August to kind of proceed with your application. Some of the UCs do a pre-screen. I know Irvine used to when I was there. So you might not even get a secondary from some of these places, because if they pre-screen or have a minimum MCAT score before they proceed with you. So there's always a level of risk. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world, because if they just basically put you on ice until the score is posted, and then things will continue after the score is transmitted to the schools, which will be, it posts sometime in August. It should be within 24 hours that the transmission will happen for the school, so they'll know. So you'll have to kind of kick it into gear if you're waiting on secondaries based on that score.
Yeah, so I agree. The things that I would look at kind of immediately would be whether they pre-screen or not. So as you're going through your med school list, because they will hold out potentially on sending you that secondary, so you're not even going to be able to work really on that until the release of that. If they don't pre-screen or they don't take MCAT into consideration ahead of time, maybe you'll get a secondary, but even if you return it, it's likely they're still going to table you until that score is released. And then if you think about how long their interview season is, maybe they say we do interviews through November. Okay, so that means that people for about a month and a half at least have already been invited to interviews. And if they can book 90 to 120 days out, they're probably going to be fairly close to full on their interview slots, depending on how often interview dates are conducted. So their interview season may already kind of be set at that point. So things kind of roll pretty quick at the beginning of a cycle. So you're really going to have to look at pre-screens interview season and things like that to see kind of what your timeline needs to be for turning this stuff around. But hopefully that helps. Okay, Natasha, good day. Ooh, fancy. Okay, good day. Not sure if this was answered. I'm a non-traditional student. I took most of my prereqs years ago. Is it best to take them all over again? Are there med schools that accept old prereqs? Thank you. Hey.
Yeah.
What does the collective say on this?
It depends.
Yeah.
This is a great question.
I think we need a sign that just says it depends.
Honestly,
that should just be our background.
It really does. Yeah.
We can answer every question. It depends.
Yep.
Natasha, you want to look at individual schools. Maybe take a look at a few of the schools that you're interested in. Some of them will post the oldest age of the class that they'll accept, or the oldest age of the course. So that's where you can find that information, either on their website or on MSAR. Some schools are more flexible, but if it's been a while, you say years ago, there may also be a concern about whether, like, where are you now at this point? So they may want to see more recent coursework. If you feel like you need to repeat some of this content or review this content to prepare for the MCAT, that's another reason to consider retaking some of these. So take a look at the school's website or the MSAR, see how old your courses need to be, and then consider maybe taking, if it's not necessarily that you need to retake those prereqs, maybe some upper division classes, upper division sciences that will show more recent academic capability. So medical schools can rely on that as well. Anything else you ladies want to add?
I mean, the only other thing, I agree with everything that you said, is I'd also be a bit concerned, if I'm you, on how much I've retained from those prereq courses to sit for the MCAT, because a lot of the content is going to be covered on the MCAT. So if you feel like they're very dated and you may not have retained enough of that foundational coursework, it may be beneficial to retake them, to have just a refresh on that, so that when you sit for the MCAT, you're not going to have problems with these topics. So that would be the only other thing I would think, have just an honest conversation with yourself on that. And, maybe it's going through Anki decks or taking full-length time practice tests to see where you're at and see if it's, a test taking thing, or you're doing well, you're able to kind of re-pull that information that's in there. So that would be the only thing I feel like could be added to what Verinia said. Anything else we want to relate to Natasha?
I think we covered it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good luck. Non-traditionals are still okay, right? Still a wealth of experience, still very valuable, but just have honest conversations with yourself on building that foundation and how much has been retained, because you're going to build on it once you get into med school too. And so you need that content. Okay. Dean Wynn, hello. I will be applying next year. What should my timeline be?
Great. This is a great question.
This is very open-ended. Yeah, go ahead, Verinia.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So Dean, in terms of application timeline, you want to start preparing for the MCAT if you have not done that yet. We recommend 3 to 4 months of study, full-time study. That can be anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day. So be prepared for that. And then you want to take the MCAT maybe like January or March of the year in which you're applying, so that you have your score in hand before the application's even open. So that's preparing just for the MCAT. Then you have, I don't know what courses you've taken, so it is very open-ended, but I'm going to actually see if we can look up. We have tons of resources online about the pre-med timeline and what that looks like. So you can find those online as well. But ideally, you want to have the MCAT done by March, let's say. And then during that time period, January to May, that's when you're working on your application. So personal statement activities, all that fun stuff that goes into preparing your application, requesting letters of recommendation and things like that. If that's the timeline you're referring to, then that's the best way to approach it. Okay. Next question. Oh, thank you. Someone just put up the link to the resource I was talking about.
Nice. Helpful. Okay. Brania, we're just going to look at you for the rest of the time and your beautiful, sunny New York day.
Hot. Oh my goodness, it's so hot.
Oh, it looks like it's really nice there today. I mean,
it's very sunny, but it's also humid and hot.
Yeah.
It's freezing here. I'm
so
sad.
You can have some of it. Please take it. Take the humidity with you.
No. I draw the line.
I'm in gray green Seattle, just a dead wash the whole time. All right. Okay, so back to Anastasia. I've seen mixed things online, but is there such a thing as medical schools super scoring the MCAT with multiple takes? Short answer, yes, right? They can make a composite score, some schools. Generally, they'll let you know if they're gonna be doing that. If they have requirements on the MCAT, like if they have a subsection cutoff, if they take the highest non-expired score in a period of time, if they do a composite score. I know even one med school that takes like an ACT or an SAT and mixes it with an MCAT score to give you a new score. So there's all kinds of variations.
So what? It depends.
It depends.
Yeah.
But yes,
I think
bottom
most
line,
of them are pretty open about it though. So
Mm-hmm.
they usually tell you how they score the MCAT with multiple retakes.
Yep. Okay, David Green took Bio 2 online fall 2022. Found out some schools won't accept online prereqs. Can other upper level bio classes with lab fill in for the online prereqs? Email the school to ask, no reply.
Yeah, okay, well, it does depend, but I would not bank on it. I mean, they could, my experience would be the worst that could happen is they're going to come back and say, you are missing bio 1 and 2 or whatever the numbering system is for our medical school, and you would have to take it by matriculation. Generally, missing prerequisites will not hold you up from getting an interview and kind of advancing through, but there would be an expectation that you would have to complete them prior to matriculation. So worst comes to worst, you can certainly appeal and say, look, I took them here, or you just have to retake them.
It may be something where if you think it's going to be a problem for a fair number of the schools that you're applying to, just be proactive about it, right?
And retake it.
Yeah.
Retake it in the fall, retake it in the spring, at least sign up for it. Because if they come back to you, say you do interview in November, they come back to you in December or January with a seat offer and say, you're going to have to take this, and you can no longer enroll in these things, then it becomes problematic to find an in-person course to take. So you may just want to be proactive about it. Some may take an upper level, but a lot of them, again, like to see that foundational bio 1 and 2. So if that's what it's looking like on a majority of your schools, just do what you got to do. It's one class to potentially be considered for med school. It is what it is. There's not, I would say there's not a lot of gray area, and you're not going to find a lot of people willing to give you any type of leeway because they don't have to, right? The requirements are published and they're established, and it would be unfair, for me as a director to say, well, I understand for you, it's okay for you. I can't do that. I have to hold everybody to the exact same standard, and if it's online and that's what's published, I can't take it, and I won't be able to take it for anybody. So there won't be an exception made. So if you need to, just take it. Okay.
Okay. Next question. Let's see. I have one here. I can put this up. That's one here from Natasha again.
Okay. Welcome back, Natasha. All right. Also, I have a lot of diverse work experience as a non-traditional. It's pretty common. And I am wondering if it's okay to include discussing my diverse work experience when writing the personal statement. I know This one's not, it depends. This one has a firm answer.
Yeah, that's why I
Yes.
picked it.
Who wants to take this one?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That's easy. Yes, discuss them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's particularly if they have an impact on your goals for going into medicine and becoming a doctor, please include them. Actually, don't even just discuss them, but come up with a story that really has made an impact on you with relation to those experiences. So in short answer, yes, include them.
Yep. Just keep in mind too that the personal statement, you're focusing on why medicine, why do you want to become a physician? So those experiences probably may have played a part in that. So you can talk about them. Pick one or two that you want to, like Christine was saying, maybe share an experience or a story around that helped you on this path in some way. It's not a resume, right? The personal statement is not a narrative resume, so you don't have to approach it from the perspective of, let me tell you what I did and everything I did and all the wonderful things that I accomplished. It's more so, how did these experiences help lead me towards this path, towards becoming a physician? Yes. So keep that in mind.
Has to be tailored. Yep.
All right. All right. Any more questions coming in? Let's see.
I like seeing when people are encouraging each other in the chat. Sometimes I'll look over and like, they're cheering each other on. And that's exactly what we're trying to promote. A sharing of information, encouragement. You're not an island. You're not all against each other. This is really nice to see those types of comments come in. So
collaboration, not competition. Yep. Exactly. All right. Let's see. Anything else going on?
Seems a lot of stuff coming in. Do we have any marked? Okay, Rosa, I have been a CNA for 3 years and I'm fearful that medical schools will think I want to do nursing, not doctor. I was thinking of being a medical scribe and research assistant. What would you guys recommend?
A lot of it's going to depend on, going back to the previous question, in terms of what you write in your personal statement. Why do you want to be a doctor? Many of those experiences, believe it or not, come from being a CNA. You've seen interactions, you've viewed interactions, and you've realized you want to be in that role, not this role. That doesn't negate the experiences you've had for 3 years. It's going to come through in your story of, why do you want to be a doctor? That's where it always is going to boil down to. Why do you want to be a doctor? Now, if you want to be a scribe, by all means, please be a scribe. As a research assistant, somebody could think you want to be a researcher. So everything really circles back to your motivation of, why do you want to be a doctor?
That's what you're there to tell us, how these dots connect and what you've taken from these experiences to tie together on your journey to becoming a physician. So, and I've heard plenty of faculty really actually appreciate CNA jobs. They're like, those are the ones that are doing the dirty work, right? They're doing the things to really help care for a patient, some of the less glamorous jobs. And I can tell you that a lot of physician faculty that are on AdComs really value somebody being willing to kind of get into that work and do it. So as long as you have your reason and can share that, I don't think it's going to be something that's super problematic for your application. Now, if you can only speak to what a nurse does and you can't speak to what a doctor does, and you've only had the opportunity to be in one setting, that may be a little bit of a narrow view, and it may not give you, like we're saying, kind of the breadth and depth that you need to talk to on the physician path in totality. But there's ways to fill in those gaps if you do shadowing or scribing or things like that, if you feel like you need to. All right.
Okay. Anything else? Let's see.
Jasmine, if I submit my primary for TMD-SAS late June, early July, am I in a good position for this upcoming cycle? So for this current cycle?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Good question. I'm going to assume this one. Yeah, I mean, assuming that your application is strong and you've done what you need to do to prepare for this, the timeline, it's what's the alternative? Not applying, at this point, like if you're ready to apply, go for it. Um, it's hard to tell you if you're in a good position without, knowing more about your application right now. So, okay.
Timeline only, I would say the sooner the better.
Right.
At this point, right? If you feel like you're good to go. So.
Right. The sooner the better.
Okay. Want to do one or two more? We have them.
Mm-hmm. It seems to be quieting down a little bit.
Malay has one.
Do you want me to put it up? I'll put it. Oh,
yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, back to Malay. How do you balance being a non-trad between taking classes, working full-time, and crafting a strong application?
You split yourself 3 ways. Yeah.
Very carefully. Mm-hmm. I think you just have to recognize it may take you longer.
Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely okay. And that's also going to be part of your story and your narrative. There's no good answer to make this easier on you. I hate to say that, Malay, and I apologize, but you're doing a lot, and you have to take care of your mental health and allow yourself the appropriate time. So I guess my number one piece of advice to you would be to take out any arbitrary timelines in your own mind and focus on being ready at the time that when you craft your strong application, it's because you've taken the appropriate time you need in balancing all the things that we're sitting here telling you need to do to craft that strong application. So if it takes you 2 years or 3 years, then that's okay. That's all I would think is most important, is your own sanity trying to do all of that.
Absolutely.
Well, and keep in mind that, again, we're not looking at information, just, one data point. We're going to see that you have overlapping things, right? You're taking classes on top of working full time, on top of obviously preparing an application and whatever else you have going on. So we have dates and timelines and this information, so we can kind of build in our mind this puzzle of what may be overlapping, and that's nothing to us. We understand that time is valuable, and you being able to multitask, which is very similar to what you're going to be doing in med school, is something that you've already been doing. So they will look at that, and there is value in that. So it is okay, even if it takes a little bit longer, they're still going to look at that and see value. All right, one more, last one.
Sure.
All right.
We'll end on this.
/X. Okay, hi, I'm planning on applying next year. I recently got a job as a scribe for clinical experience. Would I still need to focus on clinical volunteering, or should I focus more on building non-clinical? First off, is scribing clinical?
Are you asking us?
Are you asking that question?
Or to people in the audience, anyone? Yeah.
I lean toward yes.
Absolutely.
Scribing being clinical. Theoretically, you're interacting with the patient, you're interacting with the physician, you're at least, it's a more advanced level of shadowing on some level where you have more interaction. So I definitely would lean that into a clinical exposure, paid or not paid.
Right.
Brittany, I told you this yesterday. I'm a huge fan of non-clinical volunteering. So my answer is going to be focus on the non-clinical, because I think you need it full stop, whether you have clinical volunteering or not. So I think that's very important. So that would be my thought, is at least put some time into non-clinical.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't see why it can't be both. Like, focus on your clinical and focus on doing the other things that you're passionate about. Some schools are huge on that aspect of, community service and serving others. So you can do both. Yes, you might have to balance your time a little bit, but that's okay. Because you want to do this and you love it. So
find some things or some causes that you're interested in, where you can add your time, resources, value, because as somebody who will be a community leader in the future, good to know the people that you're working with, that you're serving, get plugged in, understand people on a human level, right? And just get engaged. So
yeah,
I agree. I always tell people, don't let that area slack. Community activism and engagement. I say med schools weigh it pretty heavily. They like to see it, and rightly so. So
in a genuine way, in a genuine,
Good
meaningful
point.
way.
Oh, very nice. Good point.
Yes. Don't just get involved just because. Choose things that you are really truly passionate about or want to help in some way.
And don't focus on how many hours you might need. Just do it.
Just do it.
Good luck.
Okay. So that concludes another episode of Premed Office Hours. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the people that are watching the recordings later on. We'll be back again next week, as always, same time, same place, to submit your questions if you have any, or join us. Maybe things that you haven't even thought about will be covered and give you some insight there. We have the workshop, which will be interactive. Register, join us. It's tomorrow. It'll cover situational judgment, kind of in a mock interview format. Some of us will be there to host that. I will be one of the moderators for that. So you can find the link online at MSHQ and join us there.
Yep, premedworkshops.com. There it is.
There we go. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.